Okay, hey guys. All right, Chris channel reporting here. Political election 2024 stuff. So the New Hampshire primary was called and Trump won. He got 145,855 votes, which was 54.6% of the vote. And Bird Brain got 43.56. And I mean, she's going to be vicious. This is going to be like the Ted Cruz of 2024. And she really doesn't have a lot of class, I don't think. He received 11 delegates. She received 8. DeSantis dropped out, but he got 1,826 votes anyway. So, Trump, and libs were voting in this primary. Now, you might be asking about that, or wondering, okay, why? Honestly, in the state of Wisconsin, like for example, let's go back to 2004. You could only vote in the Democrat primary or the Republican. Okay, so it was Bush v. whoever. I remember Howard Dean was running, and he made a really wet. He had won one of the primaries. It was either New Hampshire or Iowa or both. And he made out on Fox News, which still was okay then, and I was actually watching it. Not much more than a half hour a day. I mean, I was just actually way too busy back in that time. In 2004 at the time, because I just specifically remember things pretty clearly. I really didn't have time, and I was very focused on. I was traveling quite a bit for the work, and I was staying overnight quite a bit. But I was home for this one, and there were a lot of really weird rules in Wisconsin for the primary at that point. Code Pink was all over the place. They had set up tables literally right outside the polling door, or the door to enter the school to go in and vote. And I remember there was a cop standing there, and I said, they're not supposed to be within 200 feet or whatever it was. I think that was it here in Wisconsin anyway. And there was so much chaos, it wasn't even funny. I mean, and I will say there was chaos because they were set up in every single corner of that block. And then an ambulance had just pulled up because someone passed out or got sick or something. So this was, when I was entering, I said, well, aren't you going to do anything? And the guy looked at me and he says, really? And he wasn't being snotty or disingenuous. He said, what can I do? Because there were just so many people, and it was a weird situation. Now, it's not where I vote now. So, but that ended up being, was that Kerry? See, it just, he's not very memorable. Oh yeah. He was pretending he was playing Navy guy. And he had a running mate who I can't even remember who that was. But it was so funny because I knew Bush would get the 2004 primary. I knew he'd win it. And so I voted in the Dem primary, but what you had to do at that point was get a separate ballot. So you could only vote or was it a separate day? No, it was a separate whatever. But there were separate primaries, and you just asked for a specific sheet, and that included all of the candidates, so you couldn't cross over. Well, when Scott Walker became governor, and he was my neighbor, he actually lived about one block from this voting site at the time. And no, I didn't ever see the Koch brothers there. He was actually very quiet. very reserved, and I never really saw anything go on there. And I drove past that house at least twice a day, minimum. And so what he did when he became governor was and someone, an insider, told me that this was called the Reince Plan. So this is kind of where some of these beginnings happened, because he thought that since he won Milwaukee County Executive, and he did, but it was a weird race, because technically he should not have won, and he kept winning it. And he won a recall to get in there anyway, and threw out a lifelong Dem and cleaned everything up, and everyone liked him. I know you might find that hard to believe. I find it hard to believe right now. He was a totally different person. I tell you, you start getting involved with the big boys in these top party at the top of these parties, and you're frozen. You really can't. It's like you can't do much. But the plan was that the thought was that he had so many crossover votes, Dems crossing over and voting, part of their ballot was Dem, part of their ballot was, that he changed all that shit. And I would like it to go back. I think it should be separate. I mean, I think that, because people cheat, because I actually did cheat in that one myself. I went and voted in the Dem primary for Howard Dean, because I thought, this guy's going to slip up again. I should pull that clip up. It's probably been scrubbed by now. He made a complete ass out of himself. He started screaming and everything. All right, so, I mean, he was actually screaming. Made a really weird, I don't know. So let's go into part of this. USA, USA. Wait a minute. This guy is, I could beat him in an IQ test with one hand behind my back. I mean, come on. What is he? His advisors are going to fuck this thing up for him. Tim Scott, all he did was rip on Trump. He's stupid. He's not an intellect. Put Ben Carson. Why is he putting Tim Scott there? These people just want in. They want the power. They want the money so bad. They will kiss the behind of whoever it is they have to. This is bizarre. This I don't get. But let's go with it. USA, USA.
Well, I want to
and by the way, notice how he's sticking his face right in the camera.
thank everybody. This is a fantastic state. This is a great, great state.
See, I'm not following a lot of this shit for specific reasons.
We won New Hampshire 3 times now. Three. We win it every time. We win the primary. We win the generals. We've won it, and it's a very, very special place to me. It's very important. If you remember in 2016,
they didn't even get this number right home there either.
We came here and we needed that win, and we won by 21 points, and it was great. And today, I have to tell you, it was very interesting because I said, wow, what a great victory. Oh. But then
the Dems were going in to vote for Haley because they just hate Trump. They just hate Trump.
Somebody ran up to the stage all dressed up nicely when it was at 7, but now I just walked up and it's at 14. But she ran up when it was 7. And, you know, we have to do what's good for our party. And she was up, and I said, wow, she's doing like a speech like she won. She didn't win. She lost. And, you know, last week we had a little bit of a problem. And if you remember, Ron was very upset because she ran up and she pretended she won Iowa. And I looked around. I said, didn't she come in 3rd? Yeah, she came in 3rd. And then I looked at the polls. She was talking about most winnability, who's going to win, and I had one put up. I don't know if you see it, but I have one put up. We've won almost every single poll in the last 3 months against crooked Joe Biden. Almost every poll. And she doesn't win those polls.
Okay.
And she doesn't win those. This is not your typical victory speech, but let's not have some.
All right. So I know a lot of people don't like his personality, but I'm okay with it. For various reasons. I mean, okay. We were talking about Ramaswamy. Well, you know what? You want to look up Nikki Haley's speech? Is she on here? Haley, let's see. No. Should we go on Twitter quickly? And go to Nikki Haley. You know, as a woman, she really makes my skin crawl. She actually gives women a bad name. You know, and by the way, when Wisconsin comes along with this convention, not right down the block from where I live, because I moved a little bit closer to the lake. But I don't know, it's not far. Well, if you go down Holton and then take Holton to Walnut and then take 6th Street down, you're going to hit where this is going to be. I mean, it's just a little, take it. So actually it would technically take me about 7 minutes to drive there. And that's with stoplights and, speed limit being 25 or whatever. All right, well, let's see and she's all Botoxed up right now too. I mean, this is like a bad Botox job. You know what I'm saying? It's over Botox. Where is her speech? Does she have a speech? Where's the speech? All right, here, let's try to listen to it.
Time falsely attacking me. The great people of South Carolina know I cut their taxes. They know I signed the toughest illegal immigration bill in the country.
Actually, about a month ago, I found an article where there was some very questionable activity going on with children in her department, one of her departments down there in South Carolina, and it was very, very questionable. It was almost kind of on the child trafficking kind of, but see, now I can't find it. And I try to bookmark stuff that's important, but I don't find her to be important. But she's going to steal Wisconsin.
They know we passed voter ID and tort reform and ethics reform, and they know we moved 30.
I was listening to a talk show recently. I can't tolerate her for more than about 1 full second, where they say, she's like, people are comparing her to Hillary Clinton. Listen to that voice.
35,000 people from welfare to work. Every time I've run for office in South Carolina, I've beaten the political establishment. They're lined up against me again. That's no surprise. But South Carolina voters don't want a coronation. They want an election. And we're going to give them one. Because we are just getting started. Thank you for the energy. Thank you for the love, New Hampshire. We're going home to South Carolina.
Okay. So I thought we'd have fun with that and speed it up.
When we get to South Carolina, Donald Trump's going to have a harder time falsely attacking me. The great people of South Carolina.
Sorry about that. She's just so unlikable. Okay, so let's talk about Vivek Ramaswamy again. By the way, I only come here to read Trump stuff. I'm really not interested in anything else. Wait a minute, what was it? Oh, Breitbart, what a load of shit. 70% of Nikki Haley voters not registered Republican. Well, this is what I'm saying. It doesn't take much to figure that out. And so they swamped the polls Yeah, well, I guess what we want, CNN projection, Trump is the first non-incumbent GOP candidate in the modern era to win both Iowa and New Hampshire. Yeah, I don't, yeah, I mean, no. Haley, she's not likable. But there was another, let's go in here quickly. We may have to go into a part two here. So, yeah, I mean, that's fine. Uh, okay, there was another truth that he posted. Let's see if I can find it. You know how long it took me to find these results to top it all off? And so there's 73% of the vote in. So who knows? I mean, it's like this would be like the presidential election. All of a sudden, oh, I'm sorry, our toilet just exploded and we don't know what it is. So we're going to have to shut down the counting. And then the next day, oops. And then they cover the windows. And then, I can't believe some of the shit I saw. I can't. CNN treated and MSDNC treated my big double-digit victory over Bird Brain better than Fox. It's because Fox News is a liberal channel. I don't even understand why people even go there. Do you know I read recently when I was doing when I was well, after the 26. Oh, anyway, it doesn't matter. At some point recently, within the last year or so, I read that that these women spent 4 to 5 hours in makeup and hair before going on camera. 4 to 5 hours. So someone like a Judge Janine Pirro would have to do that because she's got to be, whatever. I have nothing against it. Or like a Kimberly Guilfoyle. I mean, that girl has so much. And I was reading recently on how, especially if you're in doing stuff online and you want to show your face or have a presence or be an influencer or whatever, like it's the false eyelashes, the Botox, and these are young 20-year-old girls. They don't need that shit. If they're up all night, drinking and smoking cigarettes, they might. But I mean, when you're that old, you shouldn't have wrinkles and stuff and have to Botox. No. And then like the lashes, the false eyelashes, I finally found a decent mascara that that looks good and stays on, and that's hard to find. That's why people will use the false eyelashes. Lip injections and hair extensions. And I mean, I think that if you're older, you want to get a little Botox or something, that's fine. But these lip injections and all this stuff, it's just a little bit out of control when people are doing this, and you can always tell when they are. It's really not necessary. If you take care of yourself and do good skincare and do good grooming and all that, and eat a decent diet, you should be able to take what God gave you and what nature gave you and make the best of it. And that includes, hairstyling and all that. And people aren't doing that anymore. And Nikki's full of Botox right now. And you can see it in her, because I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I had that once where it was just out of control. And it was very noticeable. And it was quite a while ago. I mean, once you have one experience like that, you generally are going to stay away. Here at HQ, they are playing CNN on the big screen. I don't need advice from Rhino Kaylee McEnany on Fox. Oh, did she stab him in the back too? Just had, Trump makes these people. He made that chick. And then she's like, fuck you. Either that or someone's telling her to say that. Either one. Just had a giant victory over a badly failing candidate, Bird Brain, and she's telling me what I can do better. Save your advice for Nikki. And Kaylee, she's another one that spent a lot of time in makeup. And but she is naturally pretty at the same time, so she doesn't need to. You know? Well, here's what Mark Levin says. And Mark Levin, I don't like at all, but I thought this was interesting. Nikki Haley's speech was classless and dishonest. She deserved Donald Trump's rebuke. She keeps claiming victory when she loses. She gave her statement early to spin her media advocate. She stands for nothing but her own self-aggrandizement. There's no reason for any Republicans to rally around her. And she's the media, Democrats, and establishment's favorite Republican for a reason. Yeah, well, okay. I think we can figure that out too, but Mark Levin is part of that problem. All right, well, let's talk about Charlie Kirk. Oh my God. Yeah, I don't like a lot of people right now. I'm sorry. Okay. So we were talking about Ramaswamy. I'm kind of glad he wasn't around that I could see tonight, or, he's still all over the place. And again, we spoke about I had 2 parts, and this is maybe a part 3 of this discussion. And we spoke about it. And something that does come to mind, and I remember, I think it was Dr. Shiva or something who, God, he's going in the right direction, and then he pulls back, and then, he loses my interest. You don't just, in India, there is a caste system, okay? His family, his parents were on the upper of it, and Shiva was on the very, very bottom. He was the shit. And I think he invented email. And really, I mean, we could pull up some of his videos. But he won't call out the enemy either, so he does occasionally. And when you think about okay, so he's got all this advantage. So it'd be kind of like being, in a way, a Kennedy. I'm just giving you an example. Or, like the daughter of Hillary Clinton. You're going to have all these advantages. You can do whatever you want. If you look at like John F. Kennedy Jr., he like kept failing the bar exam and kept having to take it over until he actually, I was going to say won it, passed it. I'm sorry. But it's sort of like he didn't get special treatment. But if you look at someone like a Jill Biden, Joe bought her that doctorate in education. She's not, I thought she was a medical doctor until, 2020, until I did some digging. And her thesis is just horrible. That was the one thing that I could say that I watched Tucker, or somebody had done an article years ago on that. And it was loaded with typos, and it didn't make any sense. And it was like a kid wrote it. So that was sort of like, let's throw something together on the computer and let's get you a doctorate. And Joe said, I want my wife to be special, Yeah, she's special right now. She's scamming and she's getting all she can right now from that White House. How many vacations does she take? Oh, well, somebody needs to change Joe's diapers. She's not going to touch his poop, She's not going to get those fingernails dirty and those big, huge wrinkles dirty on her face. Oh, I get a lot of hate for saying that. The pump and dump scammer Vivek Ramaswamy. With money from QVT, a hedge fund, Vivek's company purchased a failed drug from GSK, GlaxoSmithKline, renamed it. So he took a hedge fund money, even though he's got a degree in biology and he's got a degree in law. He went to go sleaze his ass around a hedge fund and his hair and his fake piece or whatever. Vivek's company purchased a failed drug from GSK, renamed it, and performed a non-scientific post hoc analysis of the failed drug where they cherry-picked data and spun it to pump up the company's stock. Once the stock price soared after the hysterical mass media, such as CNBC, talked up the stock, Mr. Ramaswamy, that's me, sold off the dump part of the pump and dump scheme, a big portion of stock to make boodles of bucks. Once the company's own clinical trial failed, the stock crashed and the investors lost their money. If you want my opinion, that's called insider trading, and the guy should probably be charged for that. But again, he's on the upper echelon. He graduated from Harvard. He graduated from Yale. And that just doesn't happen. You don't just happen to be born and then and by the way, his mother is a doctor who got her degree in India, and she's the one that worked on the post hoc analysis where they cherry pick data. And this happens a lot. And I've worked for many companies where, well, okay, it's not about me, but I mean, I've worked in situations where we tried to get label expansion or even just having Medicare approval back in the 90s was a real bitch. Just to have it approved by Medicare so that, Medicaid would follow suit, number one, but a lot of insurance companies only pay for products that Medicare has already approved, even though it already has the FDA approval. A lot of people follow suit. A lot of companies follow suit. Well, I work to circumvent that because of the studies in the product, because it was such a new product. I've done this more than once. And then we eventually did get the Medicare approval, but it took a few years. It takes years for these things to get pushed through. But once Obama became president, there was a complete halt to Class B medical devices. And that can be anything from a bandage to, I'm trying to think, casting material to a bone stem to implants, total hips, total joints, screws, rod, things like that. Okay. And I worked in that part of the industry, but even just like a speculum for a pelvic exam, right? Okay. So once the company's own clinical trial failed, the stock crashed and the investors lost their money. But Ramaswamy was sitting high on a pile of cash from his pump and dump. I don't follow right-wing libertarian authority figures. So this guy really isn't on neither do I, but whatever. I mean, who could say that that's specifically what they do? But he had to put his little disclaimer in that he's a lib who scammed the public. Okay. But wanting to know what the buzz was about, this guy Vivek, who was on stage with 7 other dunces last Wednesday night, I Googled him. Prominent on my Google feed was something on YouTube about his fraud. See, I'm not aware of that. once I don't really